Behold, the most anticipated movie of 2023. The Five Nights at Freddy's movie, a movie we've been waiting for since the early days of 2015, back when FNAF 3 was only in its infancy. However, after delay and delay, the FNAF film became something of a GTA 6, a piece of media we were always promised but never got to see come to fruition. 8 years later, and here it is, the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, starring Josh Hutcherson, produced by Blumhouse. After all this time, it should be the best movie we've ever seen, right? Instead, we get our childhood ruined as we watch Carl the Cupcake do most of the killing, as the other animatronics just build a table for it. I'm joking, of course. The movie wasn't entirely childhood-wrecking material, but it wasn't good nonetheless. And we're here today to explain where the FNAF movie went wrong. And I just want to clarify, I am merely stating my opinion. If you enjoyed this movie, I'm jealous. I wish I did too. And stick around for a quick segment at the end where we discuss some of the Easter eggs in this movie. We start off with a pretty good opening in my opinion, giving us a creepy tone, and it makes it seem like we're gonna get a lot of animatronic kills. I wish they had kept that tone for the rest of the movie, because the rest of it's pretty much just a comedy. Also, we get to see the Dream Theory book, which actually ties into the rest of the film, which I really like. The animatronics look stellar. Jim Henson's Creature Shop did a fantastic job with working on these things. They move so fluidly that it's actually hard to grasp that these aren't just people in suits. I'm also a big soundtrack guy, and I didn't mind any of the songs in this movie. The retro opening song was actually kind of a bop, and the acting for the most part was actually pretty solid. I enjoyed Josh Hutcherson's acting. I thought it was pretty good. The actor for Abby was actually a really good child actor. Most of the acting was pretty solid for the bad script that they had, maybe except for Vanessa, which I'll get into in a second. I think casting Matthew Lillard was an okay choice for the role. It's just he wasn't in the movie very much at all. He's just at the start introducing Mike to his new job offer and everything. Nothing happens in between with his character, and he just appears again at the end. This movie was just so predictable, especially towards the end. I was just piecing together what was going to happen from the start. I'm not going to lie, I didn't find much positives to this movie. I didn't think it was terrible. It was definitely entertaining, but it just felt so underwhelming to me, especially as a hardcore FNAF fan. I'm sure a lot of you can relate. I feel like even as a non-FNAF fan, this movie was just so lame. Alright, from this point on, I'm gonna have to get into spoilers because that's most of what I wanted to talk about. So just like most of us predicted, there's a Springlock scene in this movie. And that Springlock scene was just terrible. I always come back. Like, come on, man. That was probably the worst scene in the entire movie. And instead of Michael being related to Afton, it's Vanessa, which is just so stupid. I feel like a lot of this movie could have been so much better if Vanessa just wasn't in it. I honestly think she should have just been taken out the movie entirely. No offense to the actor, I think she did a good job with the script she was given. At one point in the movie, Mike and Abby are getting along and everything, and then Abby goes to touch Bonnie's guitar and gets electrocuted, and Vanessa just acts like it's Mike's fault. Mike literally asked her if there's anything he should be worried about after she demonstrated how dangerous the Springlock suits were. She could have brought up the guitar, and then she says if Mike ever brings Abby back to the pizzeria, then she'll literally shoot him. And it was all just super goofy. Everybody was laughing at that scene. It's just not scary at all for a game that's built around jump scares. I mean, this movie was already predictable enough. They should have at least tried to attempt one decent jump scare. Talk to Me was a horror movie that came out this year, and it at least tries at a jump scare, and it's pretty disturbing. By far, the biggest issue in this movie is the imbalance between comedy and horror. And none of the comedy is really even funny. I didn't laugh at a single joke. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't find a lot of positives with this movie. I didn't think it was terrible. It was definitely watchable and entertaining, but it just felt so underwhelming to me. As a hardcore FNAF fan, I'm sure a lot of you can relate. There's this ongoing gag where Balloon Boy keeps appearing and scaring Mike, and the post-credit scene is just that same gag again. They could have done something to hype us up for the next movie, or I don't know, another cameo or something. So in this opening scene after the credits, Mike's kind of a savage. He attacks this random guy in the mall for almost no reason. He thinks this guy's kid's being kidnapped and immediately just unleashes all of his rage on this poor kid's dad. Of course, this is because he watched his brother get kidnapped, and it leads into him finding the job for Freddy's. Another thing I liked was the cameos. By far the best part of this movie was when Matt Pat showed up, and very unfortunately, this was the only time during the film where I had to use the bathroom. I'm very sad that I missed it, but thankfully I got to rewatch the clip later and it was amazing. Matt Pat even works at a restaurant named Sparky's, which is a reference to that old FNAF hoax back in the day with Sparky the dog. and MatPat confirmed this to be an Easter egg to Ness from the Nintendo games. Apparently Markiplier was supposed to be in the movie as well. He was gonna be the security guard who dies at the start of the movie, and I would have loved to see that. I wonder why it didn't happen. Daco, 8-Bit Ryan, and some other FNAF YouTubers are on this Employee of the Month board that shows up for literally half a second. And of course, Corey X Kenshin was the cab driver. Not entirely sure what he did for FNAF. Back to some more negatives. The animatronics are so underutilized in this movie. The trailers made it seem like we were gonna get a ton of kills and screen times with them, but nope, just them building a pillow fort and teaming up with the gang to save the day. I said this already, but the cupcake does literally more than the actual animatronics. The only kills we got to see of the animatronics were when Max and her squad broke into the pizzeria and they got slaughtered off one by one. And I gotta say, none of those kills were actually good. It wasn't scary. Freddy actually bites a character in half, which is kind of cool, but that's pretty much it. Alright, we definitely need to talk about this table fort scene. Okay, yeah, I get the animatronics are trying to make Mike feel comfortable with leaving Abby with them, but you can't tell me this is one of the goofiest things you've ever seen in a movie. Come on, this montage does not belong in a FNAF movie. This shit is so stupid. So in the movie, Mike has these reoccurring dreams that he tries to return to every night so he can find out what happened to his brother. It's not a terrible idea, but the way it's used in this movie, it's just not good. Again, if this movie wasn't PG-13, I think that the animatronics kills would look so much better, but of course that'd be very stupid since most of FNAF's fan base is underage people. So the Aunt Jane thing, well, I think that's what her name is anyways. She just hates her nephew for some reason, and she wants to take Abby away from Mike because she wants a check from the government, which I don't really understand. I think she'll be losing a lot more money than she'll be getting. The whole subplot is just designed to give Mike a reason to go to the pizzeria. Now, one of the actresses actually said that a lot of scenes were cut from this movie, and you can really tell that. It honestly feels like there was so much missing from this movie. However, I feel like if anything was added to it, it would have just dragged on for too long, especially for non-FNAF fans. So the Spring Bonnie suit actually looks pretty good, but let me talk about the person in the suit. Matthew Lillard was an okay William Afton, but his lines were just terrible in my opinion. I hated the way he acted. He just acted so goofy. They never gave him a reason why he kills. Not that there was really an established reason in the games, but I expected one here. So he's just some random psychopath and he acts so goofy all the time. Okay, why are the animatronics so easy to take down? You just have to electrocute them and they're no threat at all. It's just so underwhelming. Scott Cawthon, I'm sorry man, but you just really disappointed me on this one. A movie shouldn't have us theorizing this much, just like the games. It's especially not good for newcomers. The audience scores around a 90% and the critic score is around a 20%. This falls in line with a lot of what reviewers are saying. They're saying that FNAF fans would love this movie and that non-FNAF fans aren't gonna like it as much. And of course, that's not the case for us. We're huge FNAF fans and me and Jaden both didn't like this movie at all. It was really disappointing, but I honestly think that a lot of fans aren't gonna like this movie as well. I think this will kind of bring us back to the eye debate that was going on when the trailers were releasing. Some people didn't like the red eyes and the animatronics expressions, and some people did. I didn't. I have a feeling that the people who didn't like it, like me, wouldn't like this film too much, and the people who did like the red eyes would. I'm not saying the eyes made this movie bad or anything, I'm just pointing out the two different ways that people think about this stuff. I just feel like this movie's horror could have been done so much better if they went for a classic FNAF 1 style. The first FNAF game set a perfect atmosphere that made it super creepy, and the movie just doesn't have that same atmosphere whatsoever. The animatronics running around and chasing the characters and moving around being so fluid, having all these expressions, even if they are angry expressions with red eyes, that's not what makes them scary. What made them creepy was their uncanniness and their supernatural behavior, which yeah, the supernatural element is established, but the animatronics, they just look like normal robots. If you just looked at them, there's no hint that they are possessed. Instead, to represent the supernatural stuff, they just had the kids as apparitions of their actual forms. I also want to mention very quick Golden Freddy just as a side note. I was very excited to see what they did for Golden Freddy in this film because of course he's a secret character in the main games, and even though we all know about him, I was hyped to see how they would explain him and what they do with him. But really nothing. They don't explain him at all and he's just in a couple scenes. Alright, I just want to mention this for fun. There were two other knockoff movies that came out before this, and we watched them. The Banana Splits movie, which was originally supposed to be the first FNAF movie that got scrapped, and Willy's Wonderland. Now thank God god, Banana Splits was terrible. Way worse than the FNAF movie, of course. But Willy's Wonderland, it was so bad that it was an actual masterpiece. Like, there's some action scenes in this movie that could rival the MCU. Now, Willy's Wonderland obviously wasn't better than the FNAF movie story-wise or anything like that, but it was such a fun watch, and the FNAF movie was just such a disappointing watch that I actually enjoyed watching Willy's Wonderland better than the FNAF movie. If you want an in-depth review on the knockoff FNAF films, let me know because that would be super fun to do. Alright, now it's time for a quick Easter egg section. The Dream Theory book that Mike reads is obviously a reference to Dream Theory, a theory that was made by MatPat when FNAF 4 came out, a theory stating that all of the events of the FNAF games were merely nightmares experienced by a kid. This box in Purple Guy's office is obviously a reference to the FNAF 4 box. You can see "It's me" written in the mirror, which is a reference to a popular phrase in FNAF. After Mike takes the job, you can hear Steve Raglan say, "I'll catch you on the flip side." This is a reference to what Phone Guy says on the third night of FNAF 1. You can see the name Fritz on the VHS tape that Mike plays. This is a reference to the security guard you play as on the 7th night of FNAF 2. Balloon Boy appears as a small figure in 3 of the scenes from the movie, as well as in this drawing. When Mike is getting ice cream, you can see the FNAF World rainbow right here. This Springlock animatronic that Mike finds in the back rooms is a reference to the Ella doll from the Fazbear Frights novels. MatPat works at a restaurant named Sparky's, which again is a reference to the FNAF 1 hoax of Sparky the dog. But not only is the restaurant named that, but there's actually a Sparky the dog animatronic in the movie. I audibly gasped when I saw that, and I think I was the only one in the theater who understood that. There's also this purple suit right next to it. Some people think that this might be Shadow Freddy, and I doubt that. I think it might actually be the Purple Guy animatronic hoax from FNAF 2. This character is wearing a Midnight Motorist shirt. Max gets bitten in two by Freddy in one scene, which I'm surprised nobody in the theater yelled out, "Was that the bite of 87? And finally, in the end credits, we can hear "Come Find Me" spelt out in the FNAF 2 minigame voice. Alright, for the next section, I'm going to have Jaden come in and explain some of the changes we'd make to the FNAF movie.
Hey guys, Jaden from the Critical Crew here. I'm going to be talking about changes that I would have made to the FNAF movie. I'm not a writer expert or anything, but this is just my personal preference on what I thought should have happened. And thankfully, I like this movie more than Ryan, by half a star. And here's where it is on the list of movies I saw this year. Go follow our letterboxes. I'm an idiot. Alright, the first change I would make to this movie is take out almost all of the comedy, making it seem like it would be a full-on horror movie with a ton of kills, but they throw that away almost immediately, and they just try to make this a comedy, and it doesn't work at all in my opinion. And this takes me into my very next change. I think this movie should have been rated R and tried to go full-out horror. I mean, hear me out. Maybe it was just my personal theater experience, but there wasn't a single child in there. And I think that's because the majority of the FNAF fan base is all grown up now. I mean, we grew up with these games so many years ago. And I don't think many kids are growing up with FNAF nowadays because it's definitely not the phenomenon it used to be. Kids are growing up with whatever this is nowadays. My next change to this movie would be make it only take place throughout 1 or 2 nights. I get it's 5 nights at Freddy's, but I feel this movie really drags when Mike keeps going to the pizzeria to get that same dream, and it just gets super repetitive and uninteresting. And it's definitely going to be super uninteresting for non-FNAF fans. Also, another change I would make, remove all the Dream Child stuff. Of course, us hardcore FNAF fans know what's going on, but to the average viewer, I don't see how any of this could make sense in the slightest. And even as a FNAF fan, this Dream Child stuff just raises so many questions in my opinion, and it just makes it convoluted like the games. Alright, this is probably my most controversial change, and I don't know how you guys will feel about this, but if they took out that "I always come back" line during the Springlock scene, it probably would have made it so much better. I mean, yeah, I get it, he said the thing, ha ha ha.
Say the line, Bart!
I always come back.
But he doesn't even say that until like a few games in when he actually comes back. Okay, another thing I would definitely change is the post-credit scene or mid-credit scene, whatever you want to call them. It's Corey in the taxi, and out of nowhere, Balloon Boy just pops up, and I guess it's supposed to be funny, and I'm also assuming it's supposed to be setting up FNAF 2. Yeah, if I was making this movie, I would definitely make the post-credit scene actually try and set up FNAF 2, and actually try to get people hyped for the next movie. Yeah, there was the puppet song in the credits, but that could mean anything. And my final change, and personally I think this is the best change this movie could have made, was just completely take out Vanessa. It's already weird enough they're trying to incorporate security breach elements in the very first FNAF movie, but Vanessa is always just so out of character, and everything she does in this movie almost makes zero sense. And her dying at the end, I just didn't care for it at all. I thought it was so dumb. I really think so many of the issues this movie had would be fixed if Vanessa was just not in the movie. But hey, don't forget this is all just my opinion, and I'm not trying to act like a professional writer or anything. Oh, and if Ryan hasn't told you guys already, happy Halloween. I hope you guys have fun this spooky season. I sound so stupid. And I really hope you enjoyed this movie. Let me know what changes you would have made to the movie, and let me know what you guys dressed up for this Halloween. I'm Batman.
Thanks a lot for watching the video. We'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments. We've actually got this channel membership thing. It's only for $1 a month. Just $1. If all of you watching just gave us $1 a month. Anyways, make sure to go check out our podcast on YouTube and on Spotify. Thank you guys so much for watching and have a good one.
William? What a surprise!